Dr. C. Rangarajan, Chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. Mr. Rangarajan, good afternoon or good morning rather. Thank you for joining us. Your first reaction to today's credit policy, somewhere are you disappointed with the hawkish tone of RBI?
It's a difficult choice. The RBI has taken a very cautious stand. I believe that the decision to pass has been taken largely influenced by the external sector considerations. The current account deficit is high and the rupee has been under pressure in the last few weeks. I think this is the factor which has largely influenced the Reserve Bank of India to take this decision, not to make any change in monetary policy. Hello.
Dr. Rangarajan, I mean, what according to you seems to be holding the RBI's hands back? Do you think it is global factors that are currently at play and therefore the RBI is in sort of more of a wait and watch mode? Or do you think it is purely our own domestic factors, the way the rupee has weakened and of course the current account gap as well?
No, you see, domestically, if you look at what is happening to growth and what is happening to the wholesale price inflation, one view can be taken. But at the same time, one cannot also ignore the fact that the rupee has been under a severe pressure in the last few weeks, and the capital flows have not been adequate. Therefore, under that situation, one has to balance different considerations. And my reading is that the Reserve Bank of India has been largely influenced by what is happening on the external front, what is happening to the rupee. And in the context of the weakening of the rupee, they have taken a decision to give a pass.
Dr. Rangarajan, given the fact that the weakening of the rupee has been driven more by global factors perhaps than domestic factors, would you agree that the RBI's hands are largely tied in the matter?
Well, the trigger is coming from outside. The current account deficit, of course, is very high. In the short run, what is relevant and what is important is the capital inflows, which can cover the current account deficit. It is the mismatch between the two which has put the pressure on the rupee. While we need to look at what can be done about capital flows, at the same time we cannot, or the Reserve Bank cannot, also create conditions in which there is a weakening of the capital flows, and therefore monetary policy has to act. Taking into account the other factors, the Reserve Bank of India has decided to give a pass and not change the interest rate.
Absolutely, Dr. Rangarajan. But if in the past the Reserve Bank had in fact allowed three kinds of, you had the RIBs, the IMDs, etc. So would this be the right time for India to launch another bond offering targeted at NRIs who have very often driven to the rescue?
Well, we can look at all these options, but the timing is extremely important. I would think that the appropriate time would be after the rupee has stabilized at some level. At the moment, I do not think that it is appropriate, but as the rupee stabilizes and the capital flows come back in the normal course, then at that time one can think in terms of these options that you have mentioned.
Because very often, actually, taking from your answer, very often that could perhaps be a bit too late. So is this the right time? Maybe one needs to preempt the fact of further weakening of the rupee and launch these bonds right away, because after all, it will take some time for us to see the effect of these inflows. So could we kind of move a little faster rather than slower? Would you think this would be the right strategy?
No, I think, if at a time of crisis or when the rupee is under pressure, such measures are not taken, then there is a commitment on interest rate which is a long term. And therefore, I would really think that while this option is a good option, we should really time it and seek a more appropriate time.
Sir, do you think on the inflation front that the battle has been largely won? Because both the CPI as well as the WPI, the numbers have been very satisfactory, particularly on the WPI. So can we regard the battle against inflation as largely won?
Well, the battle against inflation on the, as far as the wholesale price is concerned, is certainly comfortable. I mean, we have seem to have finally brought it down. But it is very intriguing that the retail inflation is nearly double that of the wholesale inflation. We really need to analyze the factors behind such a high level of retail inflation. But certainly, the whole set of measures, both fiscal and monetary policy, have helped to ease the inflation. But the depreciation of the rupee also will have its effect upon inflation in the coming months. But largely, I will agree with you that we have had some success in controlling inflation.